air raid sirens are ringing out across the capital, Kyiv.
Vladimir Putin declared war in a speech on national television.
The odds in this war are massively stacked against Ukraine, but it is fighting back.
Russia has invaded Ukraine and they've struck where it hurts the most. The president.
The enemy has marked me down as #1 target.
Russia is relentless and ready to do what it takes to bring down the Ukrainian government.
Russian President Vladimir Putin raising the stakes in its war with Ukraine. Putin says he's not bluffing when he says he's going to use all means to defend Russia, including potentially using nuclear weapons.
But little does Putin know who he's really going up against.
Vladimir Putin did not know who he was messing with when he decided to invade Ukraine.
Amidst all these shambles in Eastern Europe is a man on the opposite side of the world in the USA with a powerful tool. A tool that will shape the future of this war. A tool so powerful that it helped capture the most wanted man in the world.
The United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda.
After 4 months of a relentless fight against the Russian troops, the Ukrainian government is struggling to keep up with the string of attacks, and that's when it strikes Zelensky.
On February 24th, with the Russian invasion coming at him from 3 sides, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky reached for his most powerful weapon, his phone.
He makes a call that will forever change the trajectory of this war. On the other side of the phone is an eccentric PhD holder and billionaire at the helm of Palantir Technologies, a data mining juggernaut running the US military intelligence. A man that is not afraid to speak his mind, sometimes declining invites from the president and even criticizing the government he works for. A man that has ruthlessly threatened Russia's president.
If you fail, you will be killed.
This man, despite having dyslexia and being raised by hippie parents, has risen to head the scariest tech giant in America and is now Ukraine's biggest hope in the ongoing war. His story begins on 2nd October 1967 in the streets of New York City, the global billionaire capital. Robert and Leah Karp are in their late 20s when they welcome a bouncing baby boy, Caedmon Karp. Little do they know that this little bundle of joy will disrupt the US industrial military complex.
We had this weird family structure where my mom was in grad school as an artist, and everybody was an artist. So they were outside the norm. It was a heavily Jewish environment. My mom is black. We were pro-Israel.
But there's a little problem. It's 1967, the height of the Cold War and the Civil Rights Movement.
100 places Detroit is afire. 100 square blocks are now under siege. And as you walk through the area, people shout from their homes, "Watch out for the snipers."
Newark, New Jersey became a city of race riots, violence, looting, and hate. For 5 days, it was a battleground and a looter's paradise. Colored citizens clashed with police, National Guardsmen, and state troopers. 24 people were killed and 1,200 injured.
The prevailing socio-political environment does not favor minorities, so every weekend, instead of visiting malls and going to theme parks, they go to anti-Reagan protests and labor rights demonstrations. It is here that he slowly forms his political views that will later shape his life's ideology and put him at loggerheads with the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Before we dive into today's video, now I'm blessed with my hair genetics, but I also wanted to stay that way. At the same time, I wanted a solution that's convenient and effective because I need to travel a lot for my business. That's when I discovered Keeps. Their treatments are not only affordable but also 90% effective according to clinical studies. Keeps is an online subscription service that brings clinically proven treatments for hair loss right to your doorstep. They provide personalized treatment plans tailored to your unique needs, all recommended by licensed medical providers. Plus, the flexibility of choosing delivery options means you're in control of your hair care journey. Keeps offers both FDA-approved hair loss treatment options as well as a 2-in-1 gel for that extra boost. From hair thickening shampoo to conditioner and styling pomade, they got you covered. They have helped nearly 1 million men keep their hair with over 4,500 5-star reviews. Treatments are delivered discreetly to your door. Now, if you're ready to take the next step in your hair care journey, hair loss stops with Keeps, and I've got a special offer for you. Head to keeps.com/megalomedia or click the link in the description to get started. Remember, Keeps is not just about hair, it's about confidence. Click the link in the description and get started. Fast forward and they moved to Philadelphia, where he joined Central High School. Life at high school is no easy feat, thanks to his racial background, his eccentric behavior and dyslexia.
Yeah. I would have loved to be an insider somewhere, and the minute I could be an insider, I'm like, shit, I'm dyslexic. So it's like, I used to wonder as a little kid, how could this get worse?
He often spends time alone, and his peers find him somewhat weird, but Alex Karp is oblivious of his deviant lifestyle and leads his life as stress-free as possible. He graduates from Central High School in 1985 and goes on to join Haverford College in Pennsylvania, where he graduates with a bachelor's degree. His Jewish dad, however, wants him to pursue a professional career that will guarantee him success, especially in the current anti-Semitic environment. So he joins Stanford University, where he meets the person that will change his life forever, Peter Thiel.
After I was at Stanford, I went abroad to become an academic. And then I came back and I reconnected with my buddy, Peter.
The two share the no-frills Crothers dorm as well as most of their classes during their first year. But despite being close friends, their political views are worlds apart. Karp is a self-described socialist and a progressive, while Thiel has formed the staunchly libertarian Stanford Review. He uses this paper to fight the university's liberal agenda, pitting himself against the administration. They spend most of the time together brawling at each other and picking each other's brain. Yet, these differences only bring them even closer. Little do they know that their complete divergent views will lead them to create the most powerful data analyzing tool in the world. After graduating from Stanford Law with a Juris Doctor degree in 1992, Alex decides he no longer wishes to pursue law.
Then I went to Frankfurt and got
PhD in neoclassical
social philosophy, which is a fancy way of saying a quick path to being unemployed. Certainly to be the highest educated, least earning person on the planet.
But no sooner has he graduated with a PhD than he receives a heartbreaking call.
His grandfather passed away when he was around 29, 32 years old and left him a lot of money in an inheritance. So Alex Karp got a ton of experience managing people's money because he took all of his grandfather's inheritance and started a venture capital fund.
High net worth individuals begin flocking to him to manage their investments. This prompts him to form the Caedmon Group company, an asset management firm. This firm allows him to meet some of the most influential people in Europe, sometimes dining and golfing with heads of military and governments. Meanwhile, Peter Thiel has gone on to make a name for himself in Silicon Valley. Together with Elon Musk, they have co-founded PayPal and sold it to eBay for $1.5 billion. He takes his proceeds and forms a hedge fund called Clarium Capital, while the rest goes on to form other companies, one of which will become the hope of Ukraine in its war with Russia. PayPal wasn't an instant success, as most people will have you believe. Its early days were marred with controversies, corruption claims, and constant cyber attacks. The online payment platform was losing more than $10 million from credit card fraud, and Visa and MasterCard weren't happy about it. So in an email addressed to Peter Thiel, they make it clear that if the problem isn't fixed, they will sever their relationship with PayPal for good. If Visa and MasterCard pull out, PayPal will be no more. And the reality of that statement soon sinks deeper for Peter Thiel. Immediately, he sets up an in-house team to mitigate this problem. In the process, they create a tool named Igor that scans the entire PayPal database, identifying outliers and further analyzing them to pick out patterns that match fraudulent behavior.
It sort of is a way for patterns and data to be visualized through a combination of computers and human analysts, and then in a way that doesn't simply scour the planet. If there's something suspicious, then you look some more, and in that sense, it's way less intrusive.
After months of sleepless nights, they successfully seal off the loophole and their relationship with Visa and MasterCard is restored. But then, just when everything seems to be flowing smoothly, the devil hits. America is brought down to its knees. Wails and sirens fill every corner of the country. No one saw it coming, not even the alphabet soup of US counterterrorism and military agencies. And it's at that point that Peter Thiel gets a crazy idea. An idea that no one else has successfully executed. An idea that will make the war on terror more precise and accurate to a T. What if he uses PayPal's fraud detection technology, Igor, to aid in national security? An inspired Peter Thiel can be seen moving up and about in his Palo Alto offices, sieving through documents and making calls. Then he picks up the phone and calls two of his friends from Stanford Law School, Joe Lonsdale and Stephen Cohen. I have a crazy idea. Are you in? But knowing his friends well, that's like asking a pack of hungry wolves if they want to join the feast. They promptly drop their work to go work for this old-time friend with a crazy idea. He also convinces Nathan Gettings, a PayPal engineer, to join him in his new quest of creating the civilian counter-terrorism tool. They decide to name the company Palantir. And for those of you who had a social life growing up, Palantir comes from the Palantiri seeing stones from Lord of the Rings. The Palantiri stones enable one to see and track people thousands of miles away. However, they only let you see what you want to see. And that's exactly what Palantir is built to do. It enables the user to tag their data and, using those tags, identify and structure the data in a way that is easy to analyze and interpret using various data presentation methods.
Co-founded by Peter Thiel back in 2003, its mission, providing software that customers use to integrate volumes of data from images to spreadsheets into a central platform where it can then be securely analyzed and interpreted.
The core mission of our company always was to make the West, especially America, the strongest in the world for the sake of global peace and prosperity.
In the initial days, Peter Thiel bankrolls the company almost entirely from his own money. He invests a total of $30 million in startup costs, but with a prototype already in the offing, they only have one problem: they are too young, which means potential investors and customers will have a hard time taking them seriously.
We did a very bad job making our case. It was very difficult. We didn't understand what they were saying. They didn't understand what we were saying.
Unlike Facebook or some other viral Silicon Valley toy, Palantir was built for the big brothers, and no one is going to trust 22-year-olds with national security. So guess who comes up?
Alex Karp and Peter Thiel met when they were in law school, but Alex Karp always was a quirky individual who really disagreed with Peter politically. Peter Thiel more on the right-wing side, Alex Karp more on the left-wing side, and the discussions they had were so interesting, so nuanced, so different, that Peter actually saw value in Alex Karp leading the entire company.
Peter Thiel understands that for his startup to be successful, he needs a CEO with vast connections, with high net worth individuals and senior intelligence chiefs. He needs someone smart who can bridge the gap between Palantir and the intelligence community. And Alex is exactly what he's looking for. His Kramer-esque brown curls, European wealth connections, and PhD in sociology mask his business inexperience. Yet even with zero background in tech, he proves a valuable addition to the team. He immediately grasps complex problems and translates them easily to non-engineers. He has a special knack for identifying talents and rejecting applications full of bullshit. Lonsdale and Cohen quickly ask him to become acting CEO as they go on a search party for a permanent CEO. But there can only be one Karp, and soon they give up on their search. And thanks to Karp, some European angel investors show some faith in Palantir. American investors, however, seem allergic to the startup. In fact, in one meeting, Sequoia chairman Michael Moritz spends the entire time bored and doodling away. In another meeting, Kleiner Perkins executive lectures the Palantir founders on the inevitable failure of their company for 1.5 hours. Little do they know that this infant startup will rule them all, and they are about to go up against the government if it means their survival. But will this baby company win this war? 2005, Palantir is struggling financially after exhausting almost all of its startup capital. They need investors, and they need them fast. Peter Thiel and Alex Karp are known for their laser-focused determination, so they will stop at nothing until they get what they want. And that's when they approach Richard Perle. Richard Perle is a former US Assistant Secretary of Defense. He's got the much-needed connections to the government. One of his close associates, John Poindexter, is already building a data mining program that is as spooky as its name, Total Information Awareness.
Now, if that name rings a bell, it should, because when it was proposed in the wake of 9/11, it got a huge amount of press. Total Information Awareness was the brainchild of John Poindexter, the Reagan administration official who got his conviction in the Iran-Contra scandal overturned on appeal.
Its work, similar to Palantir, is to aid in locating terrorist gangs, but it is no match. It crashes often, it's difficult to use, and the military officers find it cumbersome. So he's all ears when he receives a call from Richard Perle about this holy grail of counterterrorism. At first glance, he sees Alex and Peter as a bunch of arrogant youngsters and dismisses them. He wants Palantir to merge forces with his Total Information Awareness program, but Alex Karp will hear none of it.
When I talked to Peter Thiel early on, I was impressed with the design and the ideas they had for the user interface. But they were a bunch of young, arrogant guys, and they were convinced they could do it all.
Yet soon he will find out that they can actually do it all. Government counterterrorism units worked in silos. They are holding their cards too close to their chest, almost competing on who will be the first to capture terrorist gangs. This in-house fighting leads to the success of the most gruesome terrorist attack on American soil, and President George W. Bush isn't happy about it. So the CIA decides to give Palantir a chance using their venture capital arm, In-Q-Tel. They channel a total of $2 million to this struggling startup, and that action sends seismic waves across Wall Street, exactly what Alex Karp and his team needed. A former In-Q-Tel executive remembers,
"The most impressive thing about the team was how focused they were on the problem, how humans would talk with data."
So from 2005 to 2008, Palantir is bankrolled by the CIA, who have become Palantir's patron and only customer, alpha testing and evaluating its software. But this is not enough for Palantir, and Alex Karp has a multi-pronged plan to dominate the entire US military, even if it means using the back door. He knows the government is a rigid institution, and they need a little motivation to embrace new technology. So what does he do? He goes right into the den of lions, the military. His plan is simple. The first step is illegally introducing Palantir as a free tool to willing soldiers, training them on how to use it and letting them spread the gospel. He offers them incentives to exclusively use the software and asks them to write theses and findings on the software. And true to his genius, it doesn't take long for word of Palantir to make its way up the chain of command to Major General John John Thiel. Thiel is impressed and immediately secures enough funds to buy the software. The other side of Alex Karp's plan will utilize public opinion to arm twist the government into accepting his product, and if that fails, he will sue the government in the court of law.
The most important thing, in my view, that can happen for the preservation of the West and its values is for the U.S. military to be by far the best in the world.
In the true spirit of a megalomaniac, Alex Karp is not satisfied by one-off contracts. He wants it all of it. He wants Palantir to be the Pentagon's primary provider of intelligence software on the battlefield. But there's a problem. The military already has a similar platform, DCGS-A, and they are not ready to give it up. Their claim is that Palantir cannot do the type of data integration across the armed services that the Pentagon needs. And it's here that Alex Karp's second prong of his plan kicks in, the public opinion. He launches an all-out war over the future of DCGS-A with two big guns on his side. On one side is Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, the soon-to-be head of the Defense Intelligence Agency. On the other hand is Representative Duncan Hunter, a Marine reservist from California who had been elected to Congress in 2008. These two become Palantir's first line of defense in the public opinion court, leading to a near shouting match with a prominent general during a Congress hearing. But even that wasn't enough. They lose the war. A crushed Alex recedes to his New Hampshire office, defeated and demoralized. But he learns one thing: the government is not your mama, and sometimes being a jerk pays off. So he decides to be a total jerk and wage war on the military, their biggest customer. The audacity. The stage for the battle is set. The US Court of Federal Claims. In the blue corner is Palantir. In the red corner is the army. May the battle begin. The court rules that the army had erred in not allowing the company to compete for the DCGS-A contract. Palantir goes on to win a bid to be the sole provider of US military intelligence software, and just after winning the lawsuit, Donald J. Trump, who had received funding from Peter Thiel, wins the presidential election. Palantir suddenly now has direct access to top administration officials. And in September 2018, NIH awards Palantir a 3-year contract worth $7 million, a small win in a long streak of successful bids. They go on to win a 10-year contract for DCGS-A worth as much as $876 million. Their proprietary software is also used to track national COVID-19 data. News of this intuitive, easy-to-use data mining software spreads like wildfire. By now, they've had their first civilian customer, JP Morgan, who heard about its success from local law enforcement while trying to track fraudsters. They quickly expand into New York, opening a Batman-themed office in line with Alex Karp's eccentric style. Companies start lining up to Palantir's office. The future is bright. They are making a killing. But when you play with fire, you're bound to get hurt. And soon, Alex Karp will face the music. Will this eccentric philosopher survive the turbulence about to come his way? (2010) Palo Alto. Aaron Barr, the new CEO of HB Gary Federal, has teamed up with Palantir. He's chilling at his office when the computer chimes. An email. It's from Hunton and Williams law firm. They want Palantir to help in data collection, integration and analysis in their work of building a dossier against the WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. And Aaron Barr doesn't let the opportunity of making some big bucks slip away. He accepts the offer and tells the Palantir team that they just need to prove that WikiLeaks is hosting data in certain countries to make prosecution easier. He also adds in the emails that
we should target WikiLeaks' global following and volunteer staff, as well as people donating money to the group, to get them to understand that if they support the organization, we will come after them.
He also intends to launch cyber attacks on a server WikiLeaks used in Sweden in order to get data about people who are anonymously submitting information. This whole situation is completely contrary to Palantir's initial goal of protecting personal freedoms, and the news soon reaches the media houses when another hacker activist group, Anonymous, hacks Barry's emails and exposes Palantir as just another cyber mercenary. Alex Karp is dejected, but he won't go down, not yet. He claims no responsibility. He says they have a flat hierarchy in Palantir and employees can take action on their own volition. But the pressure from the public and investors prompts him to act accordingly. Palantir stops all business with Barr's company, places involved staff on leave, and issues a statement apologizing to
progressive organizations for any involvement that we may have had in these matters.
And this is where Palantir's woes begin. The media goes on a frenzy. People are going out on streets to protest against Palantir.
People over profits. Behind me you see a group of protesters who are protesting against Palantir out of fear that they might build a Muslim registry.
The protesters say it's a huge secretive US spy tech business founded by Trump supporting Peter Thiel. Its name, Palantir, which was cute 2 decades ago, is now synonymous with the devil. They believe Palantir is being used to track and deport undocumented migrants in the US, and Karp's previous utterances do little to help his case.
Certainly, it's a de minimis part of our work, finding people in our country who are undocumented, but it's a legitimate, complex issue. My personal position is we acknowledge the complexity. The people protesting, whom I respect, should also acknowledge the complexity.
And this is all happening just when they're about to go public. New York Stock Exchange. 2 hours before the market closes, Palantir goes public, and they are not the only ones. There are about 81 initial offerings set to raise $28.5 billion already that day. But Palantir is not going the IPO route, with Alex Karp citing that he wants to retain full control of the company. See, there are 2 types of initial offerings at the stock exchange: initial public offering and direct listing. The well-known initial public offering offers shares to the public through underwriters, such as investment banks. In a direct listing, however, private shareholders sell their stock directly to the public without the need for an underwriter.
Wall Street typically doesn't like this because usually you have a big bank like JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs that underwrites the IPO process in order to raise equity, and they make a lot of money on the back end of that. But if you go direct to the market, the big banks can't make that much money off of you. As a result of that, the markets never really liked Palantir for doing that, but their employees that were there for 20 years got to unload some shares to the market and get some much needed returns.
If you've watched our previous videos, you know that inviting the wrong person into your house is a risky affair. So Alex Karp wants to retain a firm grip on his baby. According to Alex, taking Palantir public would make it very difficult to run the business, but this won't be a smooth sail. So that's why Alex Karp, Peter Thiel, and Stephen Cohen have allocated themselves powerful shares, Class F founder shares. These shares allow them to retain nearly 50% of the voting power in perpetuity, even after selling most of their shares, a route taken by major Silicon Valley outfits.
These F-class shares have basically been the defining factors for allowing Palantir to be the company that it is. Palantir a long time ago was getting criticized by investors because they didn't work in Russia, they didn't work in China, they didn't want to have those geopolitical ties given how unique and strong their technology was. Because of their F-class shares that they negotiated years before, they were able to basically say F you to their investors with their F-class shares and do whatever they wanted to do.
But hours after the markets open, shareholders are yet to make even a single sale. The time is ticking. The Morgan Stanley software that Palantir is using to trade shares has crashed, and trades are not going through. This irony of a company known for parsing data for 17 years but can't find some of its own shareholders Belarus is sending the wrong message. They must act fast. Joe Messane, head of execution at Citadel Securities, is in deep consultation with Morgan Stanley and New York Stock Exchange. After back and forth, and with only an hour to spare, the issue is resolved and the bidding wars begin. The stock closes the day at $9.50, 38% higher from the reference price. And within 1 hour, a company that was valued at $10.5 billion ends the day at 15.8. It beats every logic that a company that had $580 million loss in the previous year, with more than 20% of its revenue coming from 2 customers, has such huge investor confidence. But more than that, it shows that Alex Karp is a man to be revered, and soon he will unleash the Kraken into Russia.
So Alex Karp plays a much bigger role than people think when it comes to the Russia-Ukraine war.
Whoever tries to hinder us, and even more so to create threats to our country, to our people, should know that Russia's response will be immediate, and it will lead you to such consequences that you have never encountered in your history.
Russian airstrikes and launches a ground invasion at a northern front from Belarus towards Kiev. There's also a ground invasion in Kharkiv, Crimea and Donbass. The presidential quarters are also under attack. Special forces quickly rush to the president, who's chilling with his family after dinner. They quickly hand him a bulletproof vest and assault rifles for his aides as they head to the bunker. Gunshots, tires screeching, random commands, feet thugging in quick succession as they meet the floor, with glass shattering from all directions. It is not a normal evening for President Zelensky, and Putin is not stopping anytime soon. He believes that Ukraine's government is run by neo-Nazis under Western control and will stop at nothing to protect Russia's territories. Zelensky must act fast if he is to win this war. He quickly enacts martial law in Ukraine and orders a general mobilization.
Air raid sirens blared out across the capital. Above the clouds, a fighter jet soared over our heads, Russian or Ukrainian, we don't know which.
This means assembling and readying military troops and supplies for war. It's about to go down. David versus Goliath. And just like David, Zelensky is about to find his own special sling. The Russians are advancing fast, taking over major territories. They've captured Kherson, Mariupol, and are now headed to Donbass. Russia's strategy is one: weakening their enemies until they surrender by attacking vital functions. Top on the list is the energy grid. They cut off the power supply in the middle of winter. Ukrainians will have to endure the winter with no power. Second on the list is the government. Disrupt them and cause in-house fighting. Thirdly, cause fear among civilians by attacking nearby military bases until every Ukrainian falls down and worships Putin. But not so fast. On the other side of the world, in the USA, someone has been watching keenly. Up his sleeve is the most intuitive military tool ever invented. For President Zelensky, surrendering means slaughter of Ukrainians. So no retreat, no surrender. Fighting is the only solution. And a friend in need is a friend indeed. So guess what Zelensky does? He calls one man. At a time when the whole world is mortified by Putin, this man picks up the call in solidarity and says,
"Hold on, President Zelensky, I'm coming."
He takes the first flight to Kiev, Ukraine.
He was the first CEO to travel to Ukraine in the last year during this horrendous time for the Ukrainian people. And he really has put his patriotism front and center before a lot of other CEOs even thought about it.
He is a man that believes opportunity only knocks once. In his briefcase is a master plan deeply embedded in his highly encrypted computer. Mission: Operation Bring Down the Kremlin.
He essentially shook his hand and promised that all of Palantir's software that is applicable on the battlefield for Ukraine would be given to them for free.
The Ukraine government quickly creates the necessary laws to allow Palantir to be deployed in the military. Now is the time to prove that Palantir is not just another toy for the big boys. They quickly set it up to track and target enemy front lines. With Palantir, Ukraine now has a clear picture of the Russian army, where they are headed, their next target, how long it takes to attack, and the type of weaponry to use. While Russia is headed to Ukraine blindly, President Zelensky knows what Putin has had for breakfast and what he will have for dinner. It is said that future wars will not be fought on the ground, but in virtual worlds, and the Russo-Ukrainian war is just the breeding ground for this new reality. Not only is Palantir working with the Ukrainian forces, it's also supporting the resettlement of Ukrainian refugees, including 110,000 in the UK. This proprietary software has proved it's worth its weight in gold. With Putin violating international humanitarian laws, Palantir is also helping Ukraine process data in war crimes. And once they are done, there is no telling how long it will take for Putin and his cronies to recover. The stage is set. The future of war? Uncertain. Will Alex Karp be known as the man who disrupted warfare and took it to the cloud? Or will he just be another Silicon Valley nerd who bid against reality and failed? Only time will tell.